Tonight, I want you to listen closely as I tell you a story that people still whisper about when the lights go out. Before we begin, take a second to hit that subscribe button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new true scary story. Because what you're about to hear might feel uncomfortably familiar if you've ever been alone at night with the feeling that something was just slightly wrong. It started in a small town where nothing unusual ever really happened. The kind of place where people recognize your car before they remember your name, and where the streets go almost completely silent after 10 in the evening. In that town lived Daniel, a quiet guy in his late 20s who worked the night shift at a tiny grocery store on the edge of the main road. The store wasn't big, just a few aisles and a humming row of refrigerators, but it stayed open 24 hours because of the highway nearby. Every now and then, travelers pulled off for snacks and gas before sinking back into the darkness. Daniel didn't mind the night shift most of the time. He liked the stillness, the way the fluorescent lights made the outside world look like an aquarium beyond the glass doors, distant and unreal. The security cameras buzzed softly from the monitor behind the counter, showing the same 3 angles over and over: the parking lot, the main entrance, and the back aisle with the freezer door that never quite closed all the way. Most nights passed in a slow blur of scanning barcodes and restocking shelves, but there was one week in late autumn when something changed. It began with a car. The first time Daniel noticed it, he almost didn't think anything of it. A dark sedan pulled into the parking lot at around 1:40 a.m., idle headlights cutting across the windows, but nobody came inside. Daniel waited, listening for the familiar chime of the automatic door, but the car just sat there. After a minute or two, it backed out of the spot, circled the lot once, and then left. Maybe they changed their mind, he muttered to himself, going back to the crossword puzzle he kept by the register. The next night, though, at almost the exact same time, the same car appeared again. It parked in the same space, engine running, lights on. Once again, no one came in. Daniel frowned and glanced up at the security monitor, more out of habit than concern. The grainy screen showed the empty entranceway, the still aisles, the parking lot with the lone dark sedan glowing softly in the night. He watched it for a while. After 3 minutes, it pulled away. This happened again and again. Several nights in a row. Always around 1:40 a.m., always parking in the same spot, always leaving without anyone stepping through the doors. Daniel told himself it was a coincidence, or some local who couldn't decide if they wanted to buy something, but after the 5th night, he felt that quiet knot of unease twist a little tighter in his chest. On the 6th night, he decided to pay closer attention. At 1:35, he stopped restocking and stood behind the counter, eyes on the clock. The store hummed softly. The air conditioner clicked as it cycled off, leaving the buzzing lights sounding louder than usual. Outside, the highway was a distant whisper. 1:39. Daniel's eyes flicked to the camera feed showing the parking lot. For a moment, there was nothing but the empty spaces and the faint reflection of the road. Then, as the digital clock rolled to 1:40, the sedan slid into view from the right side of the frame, smooth and unhurried, like it had been waiting just out of sight for its cue. It parked in the same spot, perfectly between the white lines. Daniel leaned closer to the monitor. The headlights went off. The car just sat there. He could see the faint outline of someone in the driver's seat, a dark shape in the dim glow. The longer he stared, the more he realized something was wrong with the way the figure was sitting. Too still, too straight, like a mannequin propped behind the wheel. After a full minute of staring, Daniel grabbed his phone and thought about calling the non-emergency line, but he hesitated. What exactly would he say? "Hi, there's a car in my parking lot and they're parking suspiciously?" Instead, he picked up the small flashlight the store kept near the register for power outages and stepped out from behind the counter. He told himself he was just checking, just making sure someone didn't need help, maybe a traveler who had fallen asleep at the wheel. The automatic doors opened with a sigh as he approached, the night air slipping in cool and damp. He stepped outside, the gravel crunching under his shoes. The parking lot smelled faintly of rain and gasoline. The sedan sat in its usual spot, dark and silent. As Daniel walked closer, his footsteps echoed more loudly than they should have in the open air. When he was about 4 or 5 steps away from the driver's side window, he called out, "Hey, you all right there?" No response. He lifted the flashlight and pointed it gently at the window, not wanting to startle whoever was inside. The beam caught the glass, reflected, and for a moment he couldn't see anything beyond his own pale face. He angled it down, squinting. The driver's seat was empty. Daniel felt something cold slide down his spine. Empty. He circled around to the front of the car, then the passenger side, shining the light through each window. No one in the front, no one in the back. No bags, no signs of anyone at all. The car keys weren't in the ignition either. The sedan was completely lifeless, as if it had silently rolled into the lot on its own and settled there. Then he realized something else. He hadn't heard it arrive. The engine, the tires over gravel, the low hum of a car pulling in, none of that. It had just appeared on the camera, already mid-turn into the parking space. Daniel swallowed and took a step back, suddenly aware of how exposed he felt in the open lot. He glanced up at the store's windows. The bright interior felt very far away now. He hurried back inside, the doors sighing shut behind him, and locked them, even though they were supposed to stay open all night. He stared at the parking lot feed on the monitor. The car remained in place. The longer he watched, the heavier his eyelids felt, like the glow of the screen was slowly tugging him down. At some point, without realizing it, Daniel blinked and found himself standing at the counter with the clock reading 1:52 a.m. He had lost more than 10 minutes. He looked at the camera again. The car was gone. No taillights, no motion, no sign of it leaving. It was just gone. Daniel didn't mention it to his manager the next morning when his shift ended. He told himself he had just been tired, that maybe the driver had come in while he was in the back room, though he knew the chime of the door would have told him otherwise. Still, he tried to push it away. For a few nights, the sedan didn't return. The knot in his chest loosened. He almost convinced himself he had imagined the whole thing. But then, a week later, it came back. This time, he didn't go outside. He stayed behind the counter, watching the camera as the car glided into the usual space. He tried to look away, tried to stock shelves, but he kept drifting back to the monitor like there was a thin, invisible string pulling his gaze toward it. Only when a local woman came in to buy milk did he snap out of it. She chatted about the weather. He rang her up. When he looked at the monitor again, the car was gone, leaving only an empty parking space and a faint static flicker where it had been. Over the next month, the pattern continued. The sedan would appear and disappear in the dead center of the slowest part of his shift. Sometimes he would lose track of time when it was there, blinking and realizing 5 or 10 minutes had passed without him recalling what he had been doing. Sometimes, when he was really tired, he thought he saw something in the reflection of the store's glass doors, like a shadow standing just inside the automatic doors waiting, though when he turned, there was never anyone there. What finally pushed him over the edge wasn't anything dramatic. It was a small detail, the kind your brain almost skips over. One night, after the car had vanished yet again, Daniel decided to review the recorded footage from earlier weeks. The system automatically saved everything for 30 days. He fast-forwarded through the files, watching the sped-up motion of customers and staff flicker by. When he reached 1:40 a.m. on one of the earlier nights, he slowed it down and leaned in close. The parking lot was empty. The timestamp ticked forward. 1:40:01, 1:40:02, 1:40:03. And then the image broke for a fraction of a second. a single frame of static. When the picture came back, the sedan was already there, perfectly parked. The car never drove in. It just replaced the empty space. Daniel checked another night. Same thing. Empty lot, a flash of static, then the sedan. On a third recording, the static frame was slightly longer, half a second instead of a blink, and he could see something faint behind the snow of pixels, like a tall, thin shape standing directly in front of the camera, too close for the lens to focus. And if you're still here with me in the dark, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, share it with someone who enjoys being creeped out just before bed, and turn on the notification bell so you'll always know when a new story arrives, because what happened after that static frame made Daniel realize he was never as alone on those night shifts as he thought. He paused the video, heart pounding in his ears, and rewound that half second again and again, trying to make sense of the blurred figure. The more he watched, the more it felt like whatever was on the screen was aware of him, even though it was just a recording. Finally, unable to sit still any longer, he stopped the playback and switched the monitor back to the live view. The store looked normal, empty aisles, humming refrigerators, a silent parking lot. Still, that night, he requested to move to the earlier shift. He told his manager he was struggling to stay awake at night. She agreed, and a week later, he was working mornings instead. On his last night shift, he felt both relieved and uneasy, like he was walking away from a conversation that hadn't really ended. His replacement, a college student named Mia, came in at midnight so he could show her how to close the drawers and reset the cameras. She laughed when he joked about the boring night shift. He almost warned her about the sedan. Almost. But some part of him worried that naming it out loud would make it more real, like giving it permission to keep coming back. So instead he just said, "If the cameras ever glitch for a second around 1:40, don't worry. It happens sometimes." She shrugged, saying, "It's an old system, right?" He nodded, forcing a smile, and left. For the first few weeks of his new morning schedule, Daniel tried not to think about the store at night. He tried not to imagine Mia alone behind the counter when the hum of the world faded away and the parking lot filled the screens. He succeeded, mostly, until one afternoon when he ran into her in the break room. She looked tired. As she pulled out a chair, her hands trembled just a little. "You okay?" Daniel asked. Mia gave a quick laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Yeah, just... the night shift's weird sometimes." He felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then said, "It's probably nothing. But have you ever noticed that the cameras glitch at the same time every night? Like there's this static frame and then... I don't know. It's probably just me being paranoid." Daniel swallowed. "What time?" She opened a can of soda with a loud snap. 1:40. Every night that I've noticed, anyway. And there's this car that keeps showing up right after. A black sedan. I've never seen anyone get out of it. It's like it just appears." She tried to make it sound like a joke, but her voice wavered on the last word. Daniel forced himself to breathe evenly. "Have you tried going outside when it's there?" he asked, already knowing the answer he was afraid of. Her eyes widened. "No way," she said quickly. "I don't know why, but every time I think about it, I just can't. It feels like if I step outside while it's there, something's going to change, and not in a good way." They sat in silence for a moment, the vending machine humming behind them. Finally, Mia stood up. "Anyway, I'm probably just overthinking it. Night shift brain, you know?" She smiled and left the room, leaving Daniel alone with the realization that whatever had been watching him from the static hadn't stopped when he changed shifts. It had simply waited for someone new. That's the part people sometimes forget about these stories. Just because you walk away doesn't mean the story ends. Sometimes it just finds a different person, a different angle, a different reason to keep repeating itself. What makes this particular story unsettling is that it doesn't explode into something dramatic. There's no chase, no screaming, no sudden violent end. It just keeps happening, night after night, like a routine the world has quietly accepted. According to Daniel, even months later, when he occasionally checks the live feeds from his phone out of habit, there are certain nights when he opens the app at around 1:40 a.m., not even thinking about the time, and sees the grainy view of the parking lot. Most of the time, it's empty. But on those other nights, the ones that leave him lying awake until dawn, the sedan is there, parked exactly where it always was. Lights off, no driver, and every single time just before he disconnects from the feed, the screen flickers. Not enough to lose the image, just enough for a thin veil of static to wash over everything, like something is pressing its face against the other side, trying to see him more clearly as he watches from the safety of his bedroom. He never stays connected long after that. He always closes the app, sets his phone face down, and tells himself the same thing over and over until he finally falls asleep. It's just a glitch. Just an old camera system misbehaving. But sometimes, late in the night, when he dreams he's standing in the empty store again with the humming lights above him, he can feel the faint vibration of an engine idling somewhere just beyond the doors, waiting. And he always wakes up right at 1:40, his room dark and silent. The glow of his phone screen reflecting faintly in the window like a pair of headlights that shouldn't be there.